And introducing Kate, the Sheriff of Piltover. Full name Caitlyn, most people usually refer to her as Kate in-game. This is actually the first ADC I ever used, and first champion I played period in League, because she happened to be free when I first started playing, and I have a tendency towards snipers in games I play, so she seemed pretty cool. She's a very interesting champion. She's a mainstay of the ADC pool. Her biggest strength is she has one of the longest auto attack ranges in the game, so she can shoot from very far away relative to almost any other champion in a given pool. In terms of her abilities, she's a pretty straightforward champion. Her passive is called Headshot. Essentially every so often she'll fire a stronger shot that does a lot of extra damage. It can obliterate a minion, does a lot of straight damage just to other champions. As you can see right here, there's a counter, so you can pay attention to it. It starts at as 8, it goes down to 6 as you level up. And so I just got it now. So as opposed to regular normal damage, you'll see in a second that it does a much larger amount compared to the normal ones. So that's the best thing in lane for that is you want to try and keep track of your counter and use it on enemy champions when you can. But also the special ability of it is that if you're in a bush, such as up here, it goes up by 2 instead of by 1. Her main ability is her Q, named Piltover Peacemaker. It basically shoots out a large line damage that hits everything in a direction. So for instance here, kills everything in that line. You'll note that it does more damage to most damage to the first thing it hits, and reduced damage to everything afterwards. So if you're trying to use it to hit a champion, you want to make sure there's not minions in the way, and that it hit the champion first. Her W is Yordle Snap Trap. It's pretty useful. It basically makes a trap just like it sounds. Most useful thing that I find is, for instance, you can put it in bushes to grant vision to see if there's a thing in there. If something walks past, it gets revealed for a while and you can see it coming. So especially when you're in bot lane, placing it, for instance, in this bush to check for junglers can be very useful. Additionally, if you place it in choke points, like over here, when someone's running after you, you can send it as stun them for a second and get away. Her E is known as 90 caliber net. It's a little bit counterintuitive because you have to fire it essentially in the opposite direction where you want to go. So for instance, if someone's chasing you, like for instance if I get Ashe to come towards me, and I want to run away from her, I want to aim it down. She's running. I want to aim it towards, so this, for instance, is minion, and you go the opposite direction, and the thing that it hits is slowed. The other potentially useful situation to use 90 caliber net in is that for certain walls, so particularly the very thin ones, you can use it to jump over it. So for instance, if I'm running from over here, I need to escape suddenly, close to the wall, and net over. Finally, you have Ace in the Hole, which is a fantastic ult. It essentially does a ton of damage to an enemy champion. It's click on, so you don't have to particularly aim strongly with it. You can just kind of fire and kill. For instance, if Ashe was around, which is not. So you can see here the range is relatively big, and you can see it does a lot of straight damage. Okay, serious Ashe. So how you want to potentially use Kate. No, she's being scared. So a lot of damage, and she's trying to run away. You click their ult, and you kill her. Cool, so that was not... In general with Kate, she is a strong... You want to build pure AD with her. My particular skill progression is I put in a Q first, then a point into E, and a point into W at level 4. I max Q first and E second, mostly because W doesn't give you a lot of damage. It also does not scale based on AD. It's an AP ability. So you want to max the AD ability first, which gives you a ton of damage, and then I just like getting the cooldown lower for 90 caliber net for escapes. Naturally, I put a point into your ult whenever possible because it does insane amounts of damage as you go on. The one caveat with their ult is you have to make sure you have sight when you use it, and additionally other champions can block it. So if there's an ally nearby, they can jump in front of the shot and absorb it for them. That's particularly common in bot lane since you often have support who, if they're playing right, will block the shot if their ADC is about to die. In terms of what items to buy, you want to focus again on hard AD items. The best combo for Kate is the traditional one where you get an Infinity Edge to boost her already increased crit damage, and a Phantom Dancer so she's critting almost every other shot and does a ton of damage. Other good options, best options, Bloodthirster is a fantastic option because again she benefits from having straight AD because her scaling on her Q and R is very high. The way that you want to play Cait in lane is essentially, again, because of a really long range, she's what we call a lane bully. So essentially, you want to poke the enemy ADC as often as possible. As you can see here, I have... Oops, shit. As you could kind of see there, I have longer range than Ashe. So what you want to do is try and always stay the maximum attack range away. So that's her attack range. So basically, you always want to keep your enemy as far away as possible while you can still shoot them. So you want to practice kiting, so potentially, backing up between shots if you have to. So, and with Cait, it's just a matter of learning that. You want to use Piltover Peacemaker. If you want to, you can use it to clear lanes. Preferably, you want to use it to hit enemy champions and the supports. Use your escape when you need to escape. Plant traps to keep vision up. You can also use it as escape if you time it right, but that's a little bit harder to use. And when somebody, keep in mind how much damage your ult does at any given time, and if they get below that, shoot it with them, and they die. So, give an example. So, kiting Ashe. She's just, so yeah. So the biggest strength Cait has is, again, really high range, so you can always keep away from enemies. Her downside is her escape's not fantastic. Even though Nani Cabernet is nice, it's not the best escape in the game. It does require aiming, so if someone's chasing you and you miss, that can be problematic. I think her W is not super useful, although just because it's a small hitbox and if people are watching, they can avoid the traps. But her ult's fantastic, her Q's fantastic, her range is awesome, and she's really fun to play. So that is Caitlyn, and if you try her out, enjoy sniping people's heads out from a distance.